Hey everyone, welcome to Play Hooky with me. My name is Roz, and in today's video I want to share how to do the popcorn, bobble, and puff stitch. These are often referred to as the yarn eaters of crochet, but I like to call them the showstoppers because they add so much depth and dimension to your crochet projects. You'll see them used in a variety of ways, but my personal favorite is using these stitches to create flowers. Now if you're wanting to get straight to the stitches, I'll go ahead and add some times here as well as along the progress line so you can skip to your point of interest. But before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about these stitches and some things that help me to remember which are which. So I've developed a couple of little things that do help me a lot to remember, and I'm hoping that they'll help you too. One thing I did was I measured how much yarn it takes to do one complete stitch for each type. This is the popcorn, the bobble, and the puff, and I've put them in order from the most to the least. The popcorn is the biggest. We're doing groupings of double crochets for the popcorns, and we're doing complete double crochets. And then a step down from that, it's the bobble, which is again double crochets, but they're double crochets together. And this is kind of a silly word association, but it really does help me to remember this. But the word bobble has two B's together, and so that helps me remember that I'm doing double crochets together. BB together, DC together. The puff stitch is created with half double crochets together. I always relate the word puff with pull because I pull a lot on these strands of yarn to get them to the right height. So that's another little word association that I use. Puff and pull. But this one's not too hard to remember anyway because it puffs out on both sides. If you look at these other stitches, they look very different from front to back. Like I was saying earlier, these are so versatile, so you can really work these up to be as big or small as you like depending on your project or pattern. Hey, excuse me. Okay, what was I talking about? I can't even remember now. I think I was talking about the amounts. So anyway, we can go from 2 to 7 depending on the requirement for your pattern. But for these samples here, I did them in multiples of 5. So each one of these stitches is going to hold 5 stitches within them. A good rule of thumb here is to just remember 3, 5, and 7. Odd numbers are always a good way to go. If you want them to be small, go 3, middle, 5, 7, large. I am going to work all of these with a larger hook and yarn so you can see the stitches more clearly. Also, if you like the flower patterns that you see in this video, I have added them in the description box below. For the popcorn stitch, we're going to be making them with double crochets. I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. Fasten on however you like best to the right side of your work. I like to fasten on with a slip stitch. Now we're going to be forming several double crochets into the same stitch. I'm going to be making mine with 5, so I'm going to chain 3 for my first double crochet. So I need to do 4 more double crochets. Yarn over, going into the same space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. It's a double crochet, and I need to do this 3 more times. It's 4 and 5. Now to form your popcorn, all you need to do is remove your hook from the loop, finding the first double crochet or chain 3 that you created, go into the top of that, push your hook through, go back to that loop, and pull it through that first chain from the beginning. Secure it with a chain, and that's all you need to do. It's the easiest one. It does take up the most yarn, but it also makes the biggest three-dimensional stitch for you if you're really looking to go big very quickly. And if you're working on this flower, I'm just going to do this 11 more times. Just create a popcorn in each stitch around. Okay, and then to finish this, I just go into the back and do a slip stitch into the back of the very first popcorn. For the bobble stitch, we're going to be doing double crochets again, but we're doing double crochets together. And that just means that we're going to only work half of the double crochet until we have all the stitches that we need, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all of them to join them together. Now, when you're working on the bobble stitch, it's recommended that you work on the wrong side of your work. And the reason you want to work on the wrong side is because it's naturally going to form your bobble for you as you're forming the stitches. Now, it's not the end of the world if you forget to work on the wrong side. You can physically push it into the right position, but this just saves you time if you remember to work on the wrong side. So I'm just putting a slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to fasten on with a slip stitch. And if you're interested in this flower, I'll be sure to add the pattern in the description box below, but I start this flower with a chain 3. Now, this is not required for a bobble stitch, just for this pattern. Regardless of whatever project, you usually have some yarn already on your hook like this. And all you're going to do is you're going to yarn over and start a double crochet. I'm working in the next stitch, and I'm going to form 5 double crochets together. So yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, and stop. Now, typically to finish a double crochet, we would yarn over and pull through these 2. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it on the hook. I'm going to yarn over again, working into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, oops, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. And now I have 2 bars formed, 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to continue doing this until I see 5 bars here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. Yarn over, going into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Yarn over, go through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have our 5 bars, and you should see 6 loops on your hook. Okay, give it a little bit of a wiggle. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all of these loops to form our bobble. Yarn over, pull through, and secure with a chain. And that's the bobble completed, and as you can see, it sort of puffs out on the other side. Now, I've already done a chain to complete this, and what I want to do to finish this petal for this particular pattern is I want to chain 2 more to give me a complete chain 3 here. I'm going into the next stitch here with a slip stitch to anchor it down. And now you can really see the bobble happening. If you're following along to make this flower, go ahead and chain 3, yarn over, and create your next bobble in the next stitch. Okay, and when you're finished, secure with a chain, 2 more to complete a chain 3, and then I just slip stitch into the very beginning chain 3 that I started the flower with. To do a puff stitch, we're going to essentially be doing half double crochets together, but really it's just a bunch of yarn overs, and we're keeping them all on the hook at the same time. So start off with a slip knot on your hook. We're going to be working on the right side of this. I'm going to be making a flower, and I'm going to start it with a chain 3. So if you're following along, go ahead and fasten on however you like best. I'm going to do a slip stitch with a chain 3. If you do like this flower, I do have the pattern in the description box below. Now, for whatever pattern you're working on, you'll typically start with a loop on your hook. You may have been guided to do maybe a double crochet to start. So regardless, you should have a loop on your hook to get started. To do this puff stitch, I'm going to do 5 yarn overs just to stay consistent with the rest of the tutorials. So I'm going to yarn over, going into this next stitch here to create my puff, yarn over, pull through. And you want to pull on this strand of yarn to make it the same size of whatever you were working on prior. So if you did a double crochet, you want it to kind of lift up to that double crochet. Now we're going to do this 4 more times for this pattern. Yarn over, go through, pull up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I like to wiggle this around quite a bit because there's nothing worse than when you go to yarn over and pull through all those loops and you get your hooks stuck. So I wiggle this quite a bit to make sure there's room in there. Yarn over and pull through all of your loops to form your puff. Secure with a chain, and you just formed your very first puff stitch. It's a really pretty stitch and it looks the same on both sides. I find it the trickiest one to work on, but it's really an effective look. For this particular pattern, I'm going to chain 2 more to complete a chain 3. That's including that chain that I used to secure the puff. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to secure that with a slip stitch in the next stitch. Chain 3. And now I'm going to form another puff in the next stitch. Okay, I've finished my final puff. I'm going to chain 2 more for my chain 3 there. And then I just finish in the same stitch that I began with a slip stitch.